In 1901, the area now known as Rylstone Shire was made up of a collection of small villages such as Ilford, Bylong, Glen Alice and Coombamellon, later to become Candos. Smaller settlements such as Crudine, Camboon and Bogey were quite often no more than a handful of farm properties and their local school. The centre for business and government services was located in the small town of Rylstone. Declared a village in 1843, Rylstone remained a small, remote place, 3 days' coach journey from Sydney and far longer by bullock train, until the coming of the railway in 1884. The arrival of the railway encouraged the construction of a number of new buildings to cater for the increasing population and business which the railway would bring. However, the years immediately prior to 1901 would see much of eastern Australia caught in severe drought and financial depression. By 1901, with the 6 colonies under federation, the district around Rylstone, which wouldn't become Rylstone Shire until 1906, was under the control of the New South Wales Department of Public Works. The electorate of Rylstone sent a member of the Legislative Assembly to the old colonial parliament in Sydney, and a local progress association made up of businessmen had been operating for several years. It was this group who started lobbying for the formation of a Shire Council. A number of its members became the first councillors, and one, Samuel G. Benson, was elected the first Shire President. For many years, since the 1850s, Rylstone had been acquiring government services such as schools, a police station and courthouse, and a post and telegraph office. By 1906, the area had grown sufficiently to justify the formation of a Shire Council, and so on the 5th of December in that year, Council met for the first time in a room above one of the shops on Jackson's Corner in Louis Street, and early in 1907 Mr. Benson became president. In that first year, the council rate levied on property owners was 1 penny in the pound, and council's income for the year was £2,100. The first Shire clerk, appointed early in 1907, was Mr. Percy Barnes, and amongst the staff who were recruited was the local police sergeant, who also acted as the council's sanitary inspector, an unusual combination. By 1912, the council was able to persuade the state government to build the offices and chamber in Louis Street, from which for the last 88 years, from 1913, they still operate today. The advent of federation occurred during one of the 5 major wars with which Australia became involved during the 20th century. Many men and women from the district took part in these conflicts, and more than 60 never returned. The Boer War, begun in 1899 and to continue until 1902, saw a number of men from the Rylstone Mudgee district make their way to South Africa, where they fought alongside the British Army. Amongst these were the 6 Taylor brothers of Rylstone. During the 1914-18 conflict, hundreds of local men answered the call to volunteer, and in the battles of Gallipoli and the Western Front, many made the ultimate sacrifice. The Second World War saw even more men, and this time women as well, volunteering and going to all of the major theatres of war. In the second half of the century, Australians became involved in Korea and Vietnam, and once again local men were involved. Let us hope that conflict and war does not play such a major role for the local community in the 21st century. Like most of Australia during the first half of the 20th century, the Rylstone Shire rode on the sheep's back. Despite the ups and downs of a rural economy, made worse in the 1920s and 30s by the worldwide depression, the district maintained its place as a wool producer. The price of wool peaked during the Korean War, when 1 pound of wool fetched 1 pound of money, about 10 times its present value in real terms. Over more recent times, beef cattle have become integral to many properties, but here again, prices have fluctuated. However, wool and beef production still form the backbone of the local agricultural industry. Earlier in the century, with the need to be self-sufficient, a number of smaller farm enterprises operated, such as dairy farms producing local dairy products and vegetable producers growing potatoes and tomatoes. All of these have long since disappeared. However, the district still produces farm products such as eggs and honey. Since the 1970s, many farm properties have taken advantage of the changes in local and state legislation to subdivide some of their land into 100-acre blocks. This has brought a small influx of new residents, some only part-time, and assisted in the development of new agricultural pursuits such as wine, grape and olive growing, both of which took off in the 1990s. Agriculture, the original local industry, has suffered many reversals during the 100 years since Federation. However, its future is still a most important factor in the local economy. Strong demand for cement in the burgeoning city of Sydney set the New South Wales government in urgent search of new resources at the turn of the 20th century. Some of the best limestone deposits in the state, together with ample coal and water supplies, all within easy reach of a direct rail link to Sydney, put the Rylstone district high on the list of potential sites for a new cement plant. A former marble quarry, sited south of the existing limestone quarry, was privately leased for limestone production, and in May 1913 a new company, New South Wales Cement, Lime and Coal Limited, was formed under the chairmanship of Mr. James Angus. The controversial decision to create a new dormitory township at the expense of nearby Rylstone was confirmed in October 1914, when commercial and residential land gazetted for the township was auctioned with huge profits in prospect. The company's first cement kiln, ordered from a German firm in 1914, fell foul of Commonwealth embargoes on Germany at the outbreak of the Great War, and a replacement kiln, No. 2 kiln, was eventually fired into production in January 1916. The first consignment of cement left the plant 7 months later, fetching the princely sum of £5 2 shillings a tonne. Development at the works continued until the early 1930s, when the Depression struck the plant hard, leaving it virtually mothballed. By 1934, however, renewed demand for cement saw each of the 4 kilns, which had by then been installed, once again working to capacity. A post-war influx of new Australians helped to resolve the manpower problem, but the massive reconstruction program in other parts of the Commonwealth created problems of another kind. A 5th kiln installed in 1958 replaced kilns 1 and 2, while a major upgrade at the plant in 1962 saw kiln No. 6 installed to replace kilns 3 and 4. Mergers and ownership changes have lent colour and contrast to the work's proud history, and ownership finally stabilised in 1974 when the plant was bought by a partnership of 2 of the biggest concrete manufacturers in Australia, CSR and Pioneer. The Kandos Cement Works continues to form a cornerstone of the region's economy. Side by side with cement production has been the mining of coal at Kandos and Shire. The Shire Colliery was initially set up to provide coal for the Shire Cement Works. However, with the closure of those works in 1977, the colliery commenced supply to Wallerawang Power Station at Lithgow. Following the substantial investment in the mid-1980s by the then owners Blue Circle Southern Cement, the mine entered the export market, increasing its production and workforce, exporting to both Japan and Korea. With the downturn in the Asian economy in 1999 and the subsequent fall in prices, the colliery has cut back severely. However, the Shire Colliery, under its present owners Centennial Coal, still plays an important role in the local economy. To look after the growing population and industrialisation of the district, the Rylstone and District Hospital opened its doors on 3rd of March 1917 with 8 beds and an operating theatre. For 84 years it has served the local community, and even though several years have passed since the last operation was carried out or the last new arrival was delivered, the hospital continues to provide many services to the community and provides 20 beds in various categories. In 1985, the first Ada Cottage was opened in Rylstone to cater for the district's older residents. This was followed in the early 1990s by the construction of a second complex in Kandos, which in turn was enlarged in 2000. At the time of federation, the district contained numerous small schools catering to the small local communities, with children from 5 to 14 years of age attending. Schools such as Bogey, Camboon and Crudine have long since closed, and the buildings have been demolished or moved. However, some, like Bylong, Glenullis, Ilford, Candos and Rylstone, are still operating successfully, providing facilities for the younger children. Candos Central School opened in 1925 and later became the local high school. It has occupied the present buildings since 1969. One of the major events to affect the Shire in the latter part of the 20th century was the construction of Windermere Dam to create Lake Windermere. The damming of the Cudgegong River and the subsequent flooding of the village of Cudgegong resulted in a vast body of water stretching over several kilometres, 53 metres deep in parts and at a cost of $58 million. Work on the project commenced in 1974 following the uprooting of the village community, and 15 years elapsed before, in 1989, the construction was complete and the dam close to full. As well as providing irrigation water, Lake Windermere has become a popular spot for camping, fishing and water sports, both for locals and visitors at Cudgegong Waters Park, a Rylstone Shire Council initiative. As the network of roads around the Shire grew and slowly improved, the impact of the motor vehicle had its effect. Isolated properties and the smaller villages became more accessible, and the horse gave way to the car, truck and bus. As the car became more affordable in the 50s and 60s, the population became more mobile. The towns of Candos and Rylstone, which had for many years provided a self-sufficient choice of retailers and service providers, suddenly found their customers seeking greater choices out of town. Through the 1980s and 90s, businesses and services came and went until in 2001 we are left with a supply of necessary goods and services from fewer outlets. One of the benefits to the economy from the motor vehicle is of course its ability to give access to the area to visitors, resulting in the emergence over the last 15 years or so of a small but growing tourist industry. The scenic and local attractions, as well as the peace and quiet of the countryside, are bringing an increasing number of visitors to the district. Areas such as the Wollamai National Park, first gazetted in 1974 and now a World Heritage Area with Dun Swamp, the attraction of the old stone buildings of Rylstone and facilities such as the Candos Bicentennial Museum, now in its 13th year of operation, are all important to the area's tourism. This is an industry which will be of growing importance to the Shire over the next few years. During the 1980s and 90s, the effect of privatisation and globalisation has seen the disappearance of services such as rail, banks and some government services, whilst drought and the fall in commodity prices has seen a decline in the Shire's three main industries of agriculture, cement production and coal mining. However, with the emergence of new technology and new local industries, as well as the continuance of our traditional industries, Rylstone Shire can look forward with some confidence to the next 100 years of federation and build on what has been achieved in the first 100 years.